Hey everybody, welcome back to Impact Outdoors podcast this week. And man, I'm super excited. We've got my great friend, Mr. Bill Crowell, and he is joining us today. And we're got the opportunity to go to his house and interview Bill. And he has a tremendous talent in building wild game calls, specifically turkey calls. He builds a whole lot of other different calls as well, but especially is for sure turkey calls. And we got to see a wide variety of those and hear how that whole thing came about with him and really learn Bill's whole backstory about growing up in the outdoors with his family and everything that came with his career in the Air Force and then moving on and working with McDonald-Douglas. And I didn't even know he got to work on the Gemini space program back in the 60s. So a lot of cool stories coming out of this great conversation with Bill, and can't wait for you to hear it. Also, if you haven't heard, we are now part of the Waypoint Outdoor Collective, and if you have not yet joined or signed up with Waypoint, go to waypointtv.com and you can get access to all of your favorite hunting and fishing shows. And with the collective, there's a great group of podcasters on there, and so honored to be part of that now. And the best thing about it is it's all free. So get signed up today and start getting some great content delivered right to your TV, your phone, wherever you can download the app for Waypoint. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the podcast this week with Mr. Bill Crowell. I am sitting here with my good friend, Mr. Bill Crowell today, and I've known Bill for probably the last 6-7 years now through our NWTF chapter we're a part of, and found out early on that Bill makes turkey calls, and not just any turkey calls. These are handmade, one of a kind, and they work. I have seen it, and I believe he is currently working on this one maybe for me, and hopefully we'll get to use that coming up maybe.
It's on my to-do list.
Yeah, so, but Bill, welcome to Impact Outdoors, and thank you so much for inviting me into your home and doing the show with us today.
Well, I appreciate it. This will be my first podcast. I'm learning as we go, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
And love to talk about turkeys and turkey calls.
Yep, me too. So, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time, and we've been working on it, just trying to get the schedules to line up and everything. With everything going on with this pandemic this last year, it's just been tough, but we finally got a day.
I've been fighting a bad back. And, every stars just haven't been in line.
Well, looking at all the calls you've got quite the spread here, and we'll talk about all those here in a little bit. But I really I want to hear now. Just meeting somebody and you see all this, you'd be like, man, that's crazy. Why are you making all that stuff? But what, everybody has a story, right? So what was your story? How did you get started? It had to have been something growing up in the outdoors or whatever got you into where you're at now with these turkey and duck calls and deer calls and stuff. Where did it all start for Bill Crowell?
Started when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My father was a big bird hunter. He was a duck, goose, quail hunter. I was raised in the Boot Heel, Missouri, adjacent to the Mississippi River. And my father, I was blessed with a great father. He was a great hunter and a great fisherman. And he would take me with him when he went hunting and fishing. And I can remember the earliest I can remember about hunting is he took me on a sandbar in the Mississippi River right across it from Charleston, Missouri, called Marshall's Bar. And I was about 6-7 years old. Wasn't old enough to carry a gun, but I thought I was the biggest boy on the block. I was a goose hunter out of this world. And my first memory is of him taking me on Marshall's Bar. I had my trusty Red Ryder BB gun. And my dad was working these Canada geese into a pit on the bar. And I would jump up with my BB gun and I'd pump that thing and I'd shoot them. And I'd turn to my dad and I said, man, I hit that one. And that was my beginning of hunting. As I grew older, my first gun was a 410 pump, and I graduated to a 16 gauge and then to a 12 gauge. But I was blessed with a father that took the time to take me hunting, and I mean, we goose hunted, we quail hunted. I killed my first bobwhite quail with a 410 pump, and that tells you. I mean, I shot a lot before I killed one,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was just raised with it. All my life, I've hunted. I have primarily, as I was growing up, I was a duck hunter, a goose hunter, quail hunter. My dad would have 4 to 6 bird dogs. My father's family were all farmers, and so we had a lot of land to hunt. We would quail hunt. I mean, 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, the only way I could get out of school was to go hunting. My dad would tell my teacher, opening day of goose season, Bill ain't gonna be there. Bill's going goose hunt. And same thing with quail. We would take the dogs, we'd work the dogs. It was just a way of life with me. And I was just blessed with a father who took a snotty-nosed little kid with him and showed him how to hunt and showed him the great world, the great natural world that God made for us to enjoy. Absolutely. And my father was a great Christian man. We didn't hunt on Sunday. We went to church on Sunday, but we sure hunted on Saturday, and we hunted the other 5 days a week. And I was just raised that way. Over a period of time, as I got older, I mean, I hunted through high school. I wouldn't schedule a class for the first 2 periods in high school so I could duck hunt in the morning. I'd come into a class with my camo on, may have blood on my shirt. I parked my pickup truck in the parking lot and left a shotgun in the back window.
You can't do that today.
And didn't lock it. My teachers understood me. They accepted me for what I was, and I just was raised that way. I was raised to spend time in the outdoors. Same thing with crappie fishing in the spring. We crappie fished. We just I laughed. I discovered the game of golf. I was dating a girl in high school who was a golfer. And so I had to learn how to play golf. And my dad says, "Boy, you're wasting your time. You ought to be duck hunting." And but I was raised that way. I mean, it was just normal. It was just a way of doing things.
What did your mom think about missing all them school days?
My mom was very much in favor of it. I had a mom she was big crappie fishing. She didn't hunt, but she never, as long as I kept my grades decent, she had no problem with Dad taking me out of school. It was, now I had a younger sister that, I mean, she was afraid to get in the boat. We'd have to put a blanket over her head to get her away from the dock to go crappie fishing. But once she got away from the dock, she was okay. But I used to laugh. I mean, she was just petrified. She could. We literally put a blanket over her head, a sheet or something, so we could get her away from the dock.
Huh. She was fine once you got out on the water.
Once she got away from the dock, she was okay. Loved to fish. She sure didn't like it. Getting in that boat was a chore.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good childhood right there. I think one I'm even jealous of. So I got to spend a lot of time in the outdoors growing up, but I never got into hunting until I was an adult. And I think a lot of that was, there wasn't a lot of hunting close by me with friends and stuff. Most people, fish some and things like that. But growing up in Oklahoma, but as I got older, the hunting kind of piqued an interest. But all the money I made from my jobs, it was going into fishing. So that's all I did until I moved to Texas.
When I was in high school, I ran around, I played sports. I played baseball, played football a couple of years, played sports a little bit, but my my primary interest was hunting, and I had 4 or 5 buddies, and we hunted. It wasn't, you know, in, it wasn't abnormal for us to, all have shotguns when we were all 12, 14 years old. And no, you didn't get in trouble driving down the street with a shotgun in your back window. It was just accepted. Where I lived was a hunting community. Uh, you know, the guys that my father knew, he hunted with several business people he knew. Uh, he was one of 10 children, and 8 of the 10 children were farmers. And so we had farmland primarily to quail on. But it was, I mean, it was a way of life. I mean, there wasn't anything abnormal to hunt or fish.
Yeah.
We were in a small community, and and we ate. We always. My dad had an expression: "If you shoot it, you eat it." And we we would shoot game, but we cleaned it, we ate it. Mom cooked it. Nothing better than good fried quail, milk gravy, some fried potatoes, and homemade biscuits. And it was a way of life at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after after you're growing up now, and then what did you do after school? Did you go into college or?
I graduated from high school, went to college for a year. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went in the Air Force, and was in the Air Force for 4 years. During that time, I qualified for a guided missile school. I ended up in a drone squadron, and I was fortunate to be on the flying crew on a B-26. I was a launch engineer on a B-26, and I flew about 4 or 5 days a week. Uh, Enjoyed it. Was big. Came very close to staying in the Air Force. I decided I want to go back to school, so I got out of the Air Force, moved to St. Louis, Missouri, and went to work for McDonald-Douglas or Boeing. And with my electronic training in the Air Force, I qualified as an electrical engineer. I worked for McDonald-Douglas for years. At that time, I was going to college at Washington U and St. Louis U and University of Missouri in St. Louis. I got a degree in math, minor in business, and I worked for McDonald and as a radar engineer on the F-4 series aircraft and on the Gemini space program. I worked on several Gemini.
Wow, that had to be something back in
It
the
was
day.
it was so
What year?
exciting.
What year was that roughly?
It was in the 60s. It was so exciting that McDonald was big in the space program. I met astronauts that were flying in the space program in St. Louis. They would come in to review the capsule, and we'd be talking like we'd sit down and talk. They want to know what was going on with the capsule, and we would talk with them, and bring them up to date. They'd have questions. They would have concerns, and we did quite a bit of work. I worked on 2 of the capsules. It was
that's
an exciting time. It was
I didn't know.
Exciting.
I didn't know that you did that until you had brought it up earlier today. And I mean, good gosh, man, you had your hands on part of our history. I mean, that was such a key turning point in our nation's history, the whole '60s and the space movement and everything. And that's pretty cool, Bill.
Well, I was in St. Louis when they finished the arch, a big gateway to the West Arch in downtown St. Louis. But sad note, I was in St. Louis when 2 of the astronauts crashed a plane there at Lambert Field and got killed. And I was in a building adjacent to where they crashed, and it was a very sad time. I met an astronaut. My last name was Cernan, Gene Cernan, and he was there in the second aircraft. And it was a very sad day for the space program. But those people were special people, and I got to be a little part of it. I
Yeah.
cherished that.
Yeah.
They're great memories of working on that.
That's pretty incredible. So you've got all this engineering stuff now going, working on all these jets and the space program stuff with Gemini and all this, and are you still hunting a bunch at this time, or
I'm sorry?
are you still hunting a bunch during this time
Oh, yes.
while you're working?
When I worked at McDonald-Douglas in St. Louis, my home, where my mom and dad and my sister lived, and where I was raised, was about 2.5 hours from St. Louis. Every weekend, I'd work Monday through Friday and probably 3 weekends a month, particularly during hunting season. During the fall and in the winter when I could duck hunt, goose hunt,
Mm-hmm.
chase quail. I'd go home and I'd drive down Friday night, get there midnight. My dad and I'd get up Saturday morning, go whatever season was open, we'd go hunting. And so I chose to work in St. Louis because a very important part of my life up to that point was hunting. And I could still make a living in St. Louis, but I could hunt, I could fish on the weekends with 2.5 hours away. And I took all my vacation. I'd take vacation, my boss would laugh and he said, well, you want opening week of quail season, don't you? And I said, sure like to. And I would go home and hunt, fish with my father and with high school buddies that were still living in the little town of Sykeston, Missouri.
Yeah.
And I never missed a beat. The only time I really did do a whole lot of hunting was when I was in the Air Force and I was stationed in Panama City, Florida most of the time. I was in Denver for a while, but I spent about 2.5 years in Panama City. But I did a lot of local fishing. I did a lot of offshore fishing. I did a lot of bass fishing back in Panhandle of Florida. Didn't do much hunting, but I kept up with the fresh and saltwater fish, and I did that most of the time. And I would take vacation and come home, and I always made it home for opening weekend of week of quail season.
Right.
Usually for
it's like Christmas morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a deal with my boss that I went off at certain times of the year. Everybody else went off in summertime. Let me get off in duck season, or let me get off quail season. So I kept subdued somewhat when I was in Florida. But once I moved to St. Louis, I did a lot. And then I worked all in St. Louis for 10, 12 years, going to college, finishing up, getting my degree. And then had an opportunity to move back to Boot Hill. There was a company building a new plant in New Madrid, Missouri, aluminum plant. And I got an opportunity to go back there as a construction engineer during construction. And then I worked there 32 years. And I made the decision to move from St. Louis. I was married at that time. My wife and I were expecting, but I made the decision to move back to Boot Hill. And it was all back to hunting and fishing.
Right.
My priorities sometimes were maybe not the wisest, but I sure loved hunting and fishing. I really wanted to raise my son in that environment, and I made the decision to move back to the Boot Hill. And it was a very wise decision. I worked here for, like I said, 30-some years.
Yeah.
During that time, then I got into, I was instrumental in buying a hunting club in Southern Illinois, goose hunting club. And I goose guided and did commercial goose hunting for 10, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah. So did y'all own that outright, or were you partners?
We bought the farm or the ranch. It was adjacent to Horseshoe Lake, Illinois, which at that time was one of the better commercial goose hunting, Canada goose hunting areas in the country. I had hunted over with my father at an earlier age, and I got the opportunity to buy a small hunting club, found me a couple of partners to go in with me, and we bought the farm and we set it up. We had like 8 pits on it. We'd lease out 4 or 5 of them by the year, and then I would commercial goose hunt out 2 of the others. And it did that for many years, and the only thing that really got me out of it is I discovered turkey hunting.
Yeah, and that's become quite the obsession. So, and I think it was, we talked several times about this kind of this story, how your love of turkey hunting came about, but it involves your sister and the Drury family of all people, and just tell us, that's gonna go into everything that you're doing now. How all that started.
My brother-in-law worked for the Drury Corporation Construction Group, which was Mark and Terry's dad and uncle. And my sister's husband worked for them as I think he was vice president of construction for one of their divisions. And each year my brother-in-law loved to goose hunt. And so Larry would come down and I'd take him goose hunting. He'd call me and say, "Hey, I want to go goose hunt. You got any openings?" And I said, "Well, sure. Come down such a day and we'll hunt." And so he would bring some of the Druries down with him. And they loved the waterfowl. They were on just turkey hunters. A couple of them were really good waterfowl. And we did this for several years. And every spring, Mark or Terry Wand would contact my sister and say, "Hey, we want to reciprocate with Bill. Why don't you come up here and go turkey hunt?" And my excuse was always, "Hey, I crappie fish in the spring. I don't hunt in the spring. I hunt in the fall. I don't know anything about turkey hunting, and I don't want to know anything about turkey." And so I put them off for probably 4 or 5 years. And finally, one year in, called, and she says, "They won't let me alone. They've limited out. There's still 2 weeks left of turkey season, and they won't take no for an answer." And I said, "Okay." I tell them I'll come up. Since it's the last weekend, I went up and hunted Friday. The plan was to hunt Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with Sunday being the last day of turkey season. And I said, "Okay, what do I need to bring?" I have no idea. I don't own anything. It's spring type camo. All I've got is fall, winter camo. And the word I got back was, "Don't come if you don't wear mossy oak camo." At that time, Mark worked for mossy oak, and the instruction I got from my sister was, if you show up anything else, they ain't taking you. You're not going turkey hunting. So anyway, I drove up, and I kind of laughed. I got up there, and it was raining. Spring in Missouri is one rain after the other. If you want to turkey hunt in Missouri, you better like rain, because you're going to have it. And the particular weekend I went up, I met Terry at a local service station, and we headed out, and it was misting rain. And he says, "What do you think of this rain?" He says, "What's your feelings on rain?" And my old duck hunting mentality switched in, and I said, "I love rain. Good time to duck hunt." And so he kind of laughed at me. But the first day, we hunted on his uncle Marvin's ranch outside of St. Genevieve, Missouri. And we set up, and man, there were turkeys everywhere. They were gobbling, and they were just gobbling it. He would hit the call, box call or a mouth call, and they would cut him off. They were just everywhere. And he worked a couple birds, but they were what we call henned up. They were with hens, and when birds are henned up, you just can't. It's hard to break a gobbler away from live birds. The best turkey callers in the world can do it occasionally. You can call a hen in, and a gobbler will follow.
Right.
But it's hard to split them. Anyway, the first morning, We worked some birds. He worked some birds. And, oh my gosh. The first time that bird started strutting and gobbling and, and reacting to his call, I mean, I had discovered a whole new world. I was so, uh, entranced with it. I thought working a good Canada with him, big old Canada, when you're working them, they'll lock up and they'll cup their wings and they'll pop their feet down, and you know you got them, and they'll come into a call. But the first time that I saw somebody work a turkey, where that turkey gobbled and went into a strut, and I was hooked. We didn't get a bird the first day. We couldn't finish them all. I got back to my sister's to spend the night. Called my wife, and I said, "Boy, I got bad news for you." I said, "I just picked up another vice," and she kind of laughed. She said, "That's just what you need, another one." And I said, "I've turkey hunted today, and I think it's going to be better than goose hunt." And she laughed and she says, "I didn't know there was anything better than goose hunt." And so anyway, the second day we worked a bird. It was an awesome hunt. Uh, Terry knew what he was doing. I was just along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
But I harvested about a 24-pound bird with 3 beards.
That's a butterball.
I've never killed one with 3 beards since then. I've killed over 100 birds, but I've never killed another one with triple beards.
Wow.
And I got buck fever. We worked a bird, and Terry said, "Okay, shoot him." And I was sitting there, and my gun barrel was swinging in a big circle. And here I've been hunting for many, many years at that time, and I didn't know there was such thing as buck fever. But fortunately, on one of those swings, I lined up and I shot the bird, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
I ended up backing down on my goose hunting. I switched over to spring turkey hunting. My buddies that I fished with thought I died. I went whole hog, and that's the way I am. If I do something, I don't fiddle with it. I'm pretty dedicated.
Yeah, that's such a cool story, and you hear that same story time and time again from people on their first turkey hunt where they experience that, right? And
I don't know how many people I've guided a few people. I've talked to people in groups about turkey hunting, about turkey calls, and I've had all of my buddies when I was growing up. A few of them were turkey hunters, but most of them were deer hunters. They were bow hunters, they were muzzleload hunters, they were gun hunters, but they were all deer hunters. But I don't know how many of them, when they discovered turkey hunting, the deer hunting kind of took a slack to it. It's something a little bit different. It's mind-boggling. You either love it or you don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
But if you love it, it gets in your blood real quick.
Yep. Yeah, and it's so addictive. I go turkey hunting every day.
Oh, I can.
It kind of sucks right now just because we're so busy. You're bowed up making calls, and I'm bowed up with work, fishing, and all this stuff, and season's open right now, and I haven't even gotten to go yet. So probably gonna be another couple weeks before. But luckily here in Texas, we're blessed with a long season. So some places it's pretty short. There's a lot of places that have only 2-week seasons or so, but may have to go up north where the seasons are a little later this year.
Well, in Texas, we're blessed. Texas is large enough that we have what we call a split season. We have a south zone and a north zone. And the north zone runs a couple weeks, starts a couple weeks later and runs a couple weeks longer. So you can hunt the south zone, and then when it goes out, you go across Highway 10 and hunt the north zone. So we're blessed with a long season. We're blessed with a lot of birds. We have Missouri was one of the primary places to turkey hunt.
Mm.
It was in the top one or two, maybe three in the nation. Texas is, Missouri had, eastern turkeys where we have Rios in Texas. And Texas is, got some very good turkey hunting. I've been really pleased with the turkey hunting I've seen in Texas since I've been here.
Yeah. So what year was it when you shot your first bird?
1991.
91. So, and you were still in Missouri. And so when did you really, what started this? Like, when did this start coming about? After you moved to Texas, or?
No, when I was very involved with Ducks Unlimited. That was part of my duck hunting, goose hunting experience. I would help various positions in the state of Missouri, ending up being state chairman for Missouri for DU for a term. My interest in duck hunting fostered my first entry into woodworking. I started making custom duck decoys. By this, I mean I was making realistic, full-bodied, primarily mallard, canvasback, wood duck decoys. Now, these were decoys that I had, some of them I had up to $100 in them. I would make, like the primary wing feathers and the tail feathers on them, I would make them separate and insert them into the decoy, striving, again, my engineering background, striving for realistic decoys, not primarily ones that you would take out and throw in the water. These were ones that you set up on your desk or on the mantle and said ooh and ah and liked them. And I got into that very, very heavy. I had a couple people that I met in Missouri that were hunters and were woodcrafts, were woodworkers, and they helped me get started into the woodworking business. And I made decoys for probably 7 or 8 years. Sold them locally, sold some in the Peabody Hotel in Memphis and their shop. Did that for a while, and I got burnt out. It was just so long and tedious. And so I started making duck and goose calls. And primarily, I had a good friend that did some guide work on our hunt club, and he was an older gentleman. He modified the old PSO black Canada goose call, and he took one and modifying the reed on it. I mean, he was good. I had people come over and say, who in the world is doing that calling? And I one time got accused of using electronic machines because Dub and Doug were calling geese with their call. And he fostered my interest in game calls. I started out primarily with mallard calls, and I played with them, just, learn, just trial and error, do this, do this, no formal training, just trial and error. And over a period of time, I learned how to make a decent duck call. Well, then, when I discovered turkey hunting, that was just a natural thing to do. I mean, I jumped into turkey calls out of this world. The duck calls kind of took side of it. I had to have a better turkey call. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of good commercial calls on the market. Primos and people like that, Night and Hail, all make very good production calls. But I wanted to make more of a custom call. It's not the same market. That's a little different market. And I just wanted to make some custom calls. And so I started out with turkey calls when I moved to Texas. And it's been 20 years ago. I've been making custom calls turkey calls particularly for 20 years.
Yeah, and they are definitely custom. Like I use box calls a lot just because it's always windy a lot where I'm at and stuff, and back home in Oklahoma and here it seems like it's always blowing 30. So I use those, primarily get the distance out of them. But I know you make a wide variety of calls, using multiple, glass, slate, aluminum, and kind of tell us like like this this call is so beautiful. You can see it. Explain what this call is. I know the people on audio
This
can't
is,
see it. Post some
I'll
pictures.
give a little background. I first started out making wooden pot calls. I played with box calls. Uh, I never got a design that I would thought was better than what I could buy. In my turkey hunting, I don't use a mouth call, primarily because I have a partial plate and I can't blow one, and I've never mastered one. But I use box calls as a locator call. If you're right, in Texas, you better carry a box call because of the wind and because of the mesquite brush and what have you. Sound just doesn't carry good in the woods, and primarily in middle to south Texas. But I use myself. I use Primos. They make a box call I love, and I carry it. I also carry in my pot calls. I carry about 4 or 5 different ones. But that different ones, I mean, the old standby pot call is a slate over glass. It's the easiest to play. It's the easiest to learn how to use. Uh, Most people, when they buy a turkey call, a pot call, they will get a slate over glass. I also make several other ones. I make an aluminum over glass. I make aluminum over slate. I make a glass over aluminum. I make a glass over slate. I make various combinations, primarily to give you a different sound. The slate will be a soft, easy sound, gentle sound. But if you're hunting on a windy day and you've got that bird out there 200 yards, he's going to have trouble hearing the slate. But you jump in there with a aluminum over glass or glass over slate or glass over aluminum, and they're loud enough, they're higher pitched normally than a slate. Slate will be lower pitched, more of a raspy, old hen type. Old hen is raspy. Old hen is a slate. Young hen will be more loud and sharper, and she'll sound more like aluminum or a glass call. They have other calls. They have ceramic. They have various types of glass, uh, and I make probably about any one that you would want. However, I would recommend primarily a slate call, and I would carry an aluminum call, and I would carry a glass call. It gives You'll have a bird out there. You'll see a bird. He's strutting or he's with him. You hit the slate call, and he don't pay attention to you. So you switch over, you try glass, or you try aluminum, because there'll be something that'll get his attention. And it's what turns him on today may not turn him on tomorrow. And you just have a variety is the spice of life, and variety is the spice of turkey call. If you get lost into one call, you're going to have days when they don't pay attention to you. You just keep on going. And so I make, a variety of calls. I make a lot of custom calls for gifts and for businesses. Put the logo in it. I have an excellent engraver, Rick Bull, who he can put anything. If I can get in a computer, he can put it on a call. And so between the two of us, we come up with a variety of calls. So do a lot of logo calls. We'll put them under glass, or we can put them on slate. You can still play the call. It's got your logo on it, or it's got your company logo on it, or it's got a picture of your son or daughter and their first turkey in it. Uh, we can really make some gifts, some nice gifts, and they're the ones that we're doing right now. We have what we call a cactus call, and that's the one that there just shows you. This is a cast call. It's the body of it is a piece of cola cactus from Arizona, and then I have a
So cool.
and both it's just beautiful call.
Yeah.
We over probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I designed what I call my turkey track call, and that's what you see on the back of it, which you're seeing through, is a turkey track, and it took some design work where the call sounded like a turkey. The first couple did not sound like turkeys. But anyway, that's our premier call right now, the cactus call. We can dye it, the filler and the cast, the guy who does the custom casting for me. We can do about any color you want. We have red, blue, green, orange. If you have a college cover, if you like a University of Texas call, we can dye on that color. We can color it that color. Or A&M, we can do that. And we can make about what you want. But they're all custom calls.
Mm-hmm.
And they're individually made. They're one of a kind. We have them in stores. I have outfitters that use my calls, both deer calls and turkey calls.
Yeah, and besides wood and I'm gonna reach over here and grab a couple of these while we're sitting here talking. But there's a lot of options. So this is one here that I seen. I think maybe you posted a picture of it last year.
This one here is a rattlesnake skin. I had a gentleman in Alabama call me. He said, "I killed a big rattlesnake. Can you make me a turkey call with a rattlesnake skin in it?" I said, "Well, send me the skin and we'll see what we can do." We're in the process. I don't have it right in front of me. We're in the process of. I'm in the process of making 3 pot calls that I have on the back of them. Will have the snake skin, and we can. If you've got something you want to call made out of, well, I think we can do it. And here we're
snake skin is pretty cool.
That is unique. That's going to be a deer call.
Wow.
I'm making 3 of the pot calls, and then I'm going to make a select group of deer calls with the rattlesnake skin.
Incredible.
This is one of our grunt calls. This is a whitetail grunt call. I can make a little sound. It's a good call if you're a bow hunter. It'll stop a buck.
Pull your mic back up. There you go.
Get the mic back where you can hear me. It's a good call for bow hunters. Most of the people that buy them are bow hunters, but I can make them again. I've got several different colors. I have one that, this is an acrylic one, all acrylic. It's going to the YO Ranch in West Texas, along with some turkey calls. But I make all my own calls, like I said, and I can make just about anything you want.
Man, so one of the questions I always have, and I always struggle when I'm using a pot call, is what striker to use. And I know you've got several different types of wood here. I mean, is there any one that's better than the other? I mean, I know each one's going to sound different.
What I do, part of the manufacture of my pot calls, is when I get on, I have a set of drawings. I have a micrometer my calls. They're engineered to a degree. And when I get out with it, I have about 8 or 10, I call them test strikers. And what I do is I take these test strikers and I'll play the call with them. And I have a certain sound I'm looking for in my turkey call. And one of those tail strikers will be close. They'll be better than the others. And so I use that as a guide. And each one of my calls comes with a striker that's made for that specific call. I tune my calls. You know, you can get a generic striker that you can play with about any call, and it will give you a turkey sound. I'm looking for a better turkey sound, and so I select and tune each of one of my calls primarily with a striker. Most of my strikers are like this. They're two-piece. I'll make this, and then I will either change the shaft or I will turn down the head until I get the sound that I want. And I'll have people come in and say, well, I want a sound that's different than yours. And the best customer I have is one that comes in, sits and talks with me, and I play the call, and I say, okay, what do you want to hear? And they may want, I like a little higher pitch call. I select my calls, the ones I hunt with. I may have one striker in there that's medium, but by and large, most of my strikers will be medium to a high pitch. Part of that is due to the wind, and part of that, I just happen to like a higher pitch striker. Yeah. That's just a personal thing. I've got people that I sell calls to, and they don't like the way I tune them, so I have to mistune them, in my opinion, to get what they want.
Everybody's got a different ear.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And it's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
If you have to have that comfort zone. If you get a call and you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to do a good job of calling turkeys with it. Confidence is a big factor in calling turkeys. You've got to think, man, I can call that bird. He can't resist my sweet talk. And as such, you've got to have confidence. It's like anything else. You don't have confidence, you're not going to do it right.
It's when those wily old gobblers go silent that always gets me, because I never know to call more, to shut up, not call anymore, or what. And that's always the catch-22 with turkey hunting.
I learned very early. There's an old saying in hunting ducks. You call to their tails. If that duck is coming to you, you don't highball him. You sweet talk him, because he's liking what he's hearing. He's coming to you. Same thing with turkeys. With turkeys, you can turn a turkey off. You can blow him out. A lot of times you'll have a turkey on the roost in the morning. He will gobble, and if you're using an outhooter as a locator call, he'll shot gobble off that outhooter. But he'll hit the ground, and he may gobble once and shut up, and probably go away from you. Most of the time, they will not come to you. If they have two options, one to come to you and one to go away, most of the time they'll go away. But most of the time they're with hens. They'll roost with hens. The hens will fly down. A gobbler fly down. He'll go with the hens. You can call all you want to. He's not coming back. What I do in the morning, if I got a bird, he answers me a couple of times on the roost. He flies down. He answers me a couple of times. One time, I'll hit him a couple of times and then shut up. Normal for a turkey, a mature gobbler sense, his genes tell him that the hen has come to him. He'll get out and strut, have a strut zone. That hen will come to him. He will not go to the hen. That is not in his genes. If you get a bird in the morning, he gobbles on the roost, flies down, gobbles maybe once, twice, and walks off. Don't give up on that bird. Uh, there's, I guess there's three, if I could give you three things to help you turkey hunt, the three things would be: one, patience; two, patience; three, patience. Patience kills turkey. Blowing calls, sounding, calling forever will not do it. A lot of time, a turkey will be very curt, very, you know, curiosity kills him.
Yep.
You can take, and if he flies down and he doesn't answer you, be on guard. Don't leave the turkey woods at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning. Stay in there, and a lot of times about 9 or 10 o'clock, that gobbler will leave the hens. He's got a great memory. He'll remember hearing you early in the morning, and he will come back looking for you.
Yep.
And that's, again, that's talking patience. Uh, I do not call a lot. I probably, if anything, I may err on not calling quite enough. But you can sure blow them out. And if you're sitting there and you're just calling up a star, that tells that gobbler that you're a very interested hen and that you're interested in coming to him. And he's going to hang up. He will sit out there 75, 80 yards, and he'll wait for you to come to him. But if you play on his curiosity, if you sound interested but you're not quite, a lot of times he will come in quiet. And the eastern birds are notorious for circling you. You'll see one across the field, they go in the woods to the right or left of you. You think you lost him. About 15 or 20 minutes later, you hear him go, stop, stop. And he's sitting right behind you. He's about 10 yards behind you. You just reached up to scratch your head, and he saw your hand, and he made you.
Mm-hmm.
Back to patience. And I used to be a running gunner. I am more prone now to patience and hunting and let them come to me.
Yeah, I am on the I love being out there in the morning and hearing them on the roost because that's usually when they're so active. But like you said, they do tend to shut up when they hit the ground a lot of times. And like you said, you'll hear them gobble, sparingly and stuff, and then they usually go quiet for a couple hours. And I bet 80% of the turkeys I've killed have always been between 9 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then again, a little peak, later, early evening, before they head back to the roost. And I love hunting that middle of the day.
I remember when I first started turkey hunting, when I hunted with Mark, with Terry a couple of times. And then I hunted with another gentleman in Missouri that I knew real well. And they both said, you'll kill more turkeys from 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning till noon, or from about 2 o'clock in the afternoon till about 4, maybe 4:30. So many people, they think they're going to kill them on the fly down, and they just don't.
They'll spook more of them than anything, trying to get
Spook
close.
I found that when I was running and gunning, I was killing birds. But over the years, I've come to the conclusion that I probably spook more birds than I kill. Mm-hmm. And the birds, they're in the woods every minute of the day. They don't hibernate somewhere at 10 o'clock in the morning. They're still out. The hens will go to a nest if they're nesting, and the gobbler's still looking for a hen to mate with. And if you're out there and you do a little sweet talking about 10 or 10:30 in the morning, you have to be careful. A lot of times he will not answer you, but he'll show up. Mm-hmm. If there's a year like this year, we've got a lot of jakes. Jakes and gobblers fight during the spring. And if there's a lot of jakes, it will shut down the gobbling quite a bit. The gobblers just are not going to gobble and let the jakes know where they're at. And so you really have to have patience. You You just got to, keep sharp because the birds are still moving. Now it gets real hot, like it does in Texas. It gets 95 degrees. They're going to shut down probably 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. They're going to sit under a shade tree somewhere and try to stay cool till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And if it's that hot, I take a break in the middle part of the day. But in Texas, we can hold them over in the morning and the afternoon. We don't have to shut down at noon. And I've killed, harvested a lot of mature birds in the afternoon. There'll be single birds. They'll be looking for a hen. They won't gobble on you. They may shot gobble one time. I've had, I don't know how many of them answer my call one time, and then never gobble again. And then 20, 15, 20, 30 minutes later, you look up and there he's walking down the road. Or he walks out of the woods. And, and he knows where you're at. Their hearing is exceptional. Their vision is exceptional. If they could smell, you couldn't kill one.
Yeah, if they could smell, there's no way
you can kill them. You never kill one.
You have to shoot them with the rifle. So yeah, those birds will drive you crazy, which is what drives us crazy and wants us to go back every time, because you want to beat them. You want to try to outsmart them, but they will shut down, and you would think there's not a turkey in the county. And then a few hours later, there's birds all around you gobbling.
Well, and they so react to weather. They sense when the weather's going to get bad, and in my opinion, some of the best times to hunt is if you've got a weather front coming in. Say it's coming in tomorrow. Hunt today. They'll be very active, very vocal. During the changing weather, they'll shut up. Day afterwards, they'll be very active. If you've got a rainstorm, not a big one, just say it's raining in daylight. I know how many times I've done this. Pull up, be pouring down rain. I'll sit in my truck and wait till it quits raining. When it quits raining, you find you an open field, sit on the edge of it. As that bird will come out, and you'll see him start preening. He'll start puffing up. He'll start shaking his feathers, getting rid of the rain. Some of the best hunting I've ever had has been right after the rain or right before the rain. During the rain, I'm kind of like a turkey. I hibernate. I don't think I have to stand out there and get sopping wet to be a good turkey hunter.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's just, it's funny watching them trying to dry off out there in those fields.
Oh, they'll just puff up and they'll shake and they'll preen and and they're trying to put oil on their feathers and they're trying to get rid of the water, and that's just a normal thing for them.
Yep. Well, I love talking about turkeys. We could sit
I can talk all day with it. I get carried away. My wife has an expression for me. She says this: they cut your head open, all that could fall out be turkey feathers. And she's very accurate.
And well, this. Me and you are both passionate about giving back and helping with stuff, and that's how I met you, was through National Wild Turkey Federation, through our chapter here in Houston, and one of the chapters here in Houston. And but you were instrumental in supporting different groups that are conservation related. I mean, I know you do with NWTF, with Ducks Unlimited, with the Mule Deer Foundation,
Rocky Mountain
Elk Foundation.
Yep.
And I know you've been getting a lot more into developing calls for stuff that's not highly available on the market, like the mule deer stuff. And I know you're working on some axis stuff possibly, and I mean, what does it mean to you to be able to give back and just you're making things that, I mean, these are things that people will cherish for the rest of their lives, and that's got to be so cool, especially the ones that you really personalize for the individual. Just knowing, I know you get feedback from these people who shoot birds and stuff, but how does that make you feel?
There's two things I want to talk about with that. Conservation. When I was involved in Ducks Unlimited, very, very instrumental. I had a motto that I wanted to leave the ducks in better shape than I found them. That was instilled into me when I was young with my father. We would quail hunt. And my dad would always say, we'll work a covey of quail, first 12, 15 birds in it. We'll shoot 4 or 5 out of it, and we'll leave the rest for seed. He was a very believer in conservation. You can go in, and sure, you can go in and eliminate a covey of quail. But when you do, you won't have any next year. And I firmly believe in conservation, while it's ducks, mule deer, turkeys, whatever. You do not overshoot. You manage the wildlife. I mean, they have a hard enough time surviving with drought, with predators, what have you. And we should strive to leave whatever animal we're associated with. We should strive to leave it better than we found it. I had a lease in South Texas that I was the only turkey hunter on it. I would never shoot out the birds. If I scouted it and I found we have 6, 8, 10 gobblers on it, I shoot maybe 1 or 2. I would never shoot any more. I would never shoot more than half. I would leave at least 50% of what I thought was there for seed and for future generations. We want the hunting society, we want to have game forever. Ducks Unlimited, Wild Turkey Federation are 2 examples of conservation methods that have taken low numbers and over good management have got them where they're at the higher levels. I firmly believe in that. I just, and I've hunted with people that, they had to shoot, they had to kill a limit every day. And I grew out of that many years ago. And it's just, and when my calls, I try to make these calls that when somebody buys one or gets one as a gift, they're proud of it. It's something they cherish. It's not a plastic call that you can buy at Walmart, but it's an instrument. It's almost a musical instrument, but it's an instrument that you make it for a gentleman. He gives it to his son. I want you to be proud. If you have a Crowell Custom Call, it is the best I've been able to make. It looks good, but it sounds good. And one of the highest compliments I get, and I have a group of people I keep in contact with prior to, during, and after turkey season particularly. And the best thing I get is I'll get a phone call from Daryl, or I'll get a call from Jeffrey, or I'll get a call from somebody and say, guess what I did? I just killed a wild turkey today when you were calling. And that is what turns my crank, because somebody has been successful, somebody's had a great day in the outdoors, and I was a small part of it. And my calls are made to be used. I get numerous comments, oh, it's too pretty. We don't want to use it. We don't want to get it wet. If you get one of my calls and for some reason it's damaged, I will replace it. It has got a guarantee.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get this cactus call later this year, and but I want people to know. Why don't you tell everybody where can they find you and how to get a hold of you?
Okay, I have a website, Crowell Custom Calls. I'm on YouTube, Crowell Custom Calls. You can call me. I have my phone number is 281-468-1216. That's my cell number. When you call, hopefully I'll say Crowell Custom Calls. And what I do, each one each call I made is special. Each one is one of a kind. I try to work with people. I follow up with you. You may get tired of me calling and saying, hey, you had any luck yet? Or how's turkey season? I want you to be happy with my call. I want you to treasure it. And it is, it's a nice call. I've enjoyed it. I'm glad that I bought one. And my primary contact is through my cell phone. You can contact me through my website. It's Crowell B _B at yahoo.com. And that's all on my website. You can see my calls. I make calls. I make gun cases. If you've got a prize pistol that you want to put in a very nice gun case, I can make you a custom gun case for that pistol. I make call-wise, I make elk calls, I make whitetail calls, I make mule deer calls, duck, geese, blue-winged teal, varmint calls, I make owl hooter calls, I make crow calls, I make sales. One of the big sellers that I have is a turkey call with a matching owl hooter or a matching crow call. I mean, the body of both calls will be made out of the same material. It'd be a matching set. And we can put your name on it. We can engrave it. We're very open to what you want to buy, what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I will make sure in the show notes after we get this up and running, all that information will be on there for everybody to reach out and get a hold of Bill and get your calls ordered. And man, can't wait to see some more turkeys coming in. So I know hopefully the next couple of weeks we'll be out at our good buddy Gene's place over in Junction for our big Hunt Fish podcast event we've got going on, and we've got people from all over coming, and I'm itching to get in the woods.
Well,
even if I'm not shooting, I just want to see some birds in person. So
the word I have, I've talked to several people today that are hunting. One guy's in Florida, another one's in Alabama. Several of them are in Texas. One's in Kansas. And right now the birds are henned up. They're kind of hard to hunt, but I think they should be getting close to the end of that cycle. I think good hunting is probably a week to 2 weeks away.
Yep.
I think I really do. And I'm not doing this to hype you up or to sound good. I honestly think from what I'm hearing that the good hunting is in front of us. The weather is starting to warm up. I just hope it don't get to 100 degrees. But if it gets up in the 80s, lows in the 60s, 70 at night, I do a turkey weather. And I really think from what I'm seeing, they're not seeing a lot of single turkeys out, a lot of single hens yet. We're still seeing some, and they're in groups. The one guy from Florida says, they're seeing gobblers still 2 and 3 and 4 in a bunch. They're seeing hens same way, 3 and 4 and 5 in a bunch. And that means that they haven't really split up. They haven't gone to the nest yet. When you start seeing single hens, and you see them, they come get a drink and go home. That means they're on a nest, and that's when the old gobbler gets looking for girls, and that's when he'll come to that call, and that's when you can. A buddy of mine says you take him for a ride and you pick up to him.
Yep. So, well, Bill, thank you so much for being on the show.
I thank you. It was great to do the podcast. This is the first one I've done. It's been a learning experience. But I love to talk about turkey hunting. It's just in my blood, unfortunately.
Well, you've got a great story and how you got started and your background and with the Air Force and working on the space program. I mean, this is all such cool stuff, and learned a few things I didn't know about you yet. So that was pretty cool. And but I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for being on.
My pleasure.
Hopefully, maybe next year, me and you can get out to Gene's and do some turkey hunting together.
Well, he has some good hunting.
So, yeah.
He has a lot of turkeys. Gene has one of the better places I've hunted. I'm sorry I missed it this year, but
Yep.
I'm sure looking forward to it next year. They've got a lot of birds. They're hearing birds.
Mm-hmm.
They're still a little tough. They're not really. They're kind of sounds like they're still henned up. I've got a buddy Lonnie that's there. He's there. He got in I think today. I should hear from him probably tonight or tomorrow. What's going on at Gene's? But
Yeah.
Gene does he has a good hunt. The food is excellent.
Oh yeah.
He's got some of the best food I've ever had. And so
Yep.
it's good hunting. You see a lot of game. You see a lot of exotics while you're there trying to kill a turkey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to get out there. So back out to the Double Draw Ranch. So, well, all right, Bill. Well, thanks, bud. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
And y'all be safe, enjoy getting out in God's creation. He created us for us to get out and enjoy, have a good time, enjoy, but be safe.
Absolutely. Amen. All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Appreciate it.